All right. That's fine. Mr. Crouch, if the state wishes to make an opening statement, now will be the time. Ms. Lewis, this is the charge.
Shots fired, officer down. You will hear and see those were the last words ever spoken by Sergeant Daniel Scott Baker. I want to tell you how we got there, and this is what the state intends to prove. On May the 29th of 2018, the defendant was staying at a hotel in Kingston Springs, Tennessee with his girlfriend, Erica Castro Miles. On that date, there was an incident, and the defendant stole the vehicle belonging to Erica Castro Miles. He left the hotel, and police responded. There was a BOLO put out by the Kingston Springs Police Department, Cheatham County Sheriff's Office, for the arrest of the defendant for theft of a vehicle. At some point on May the 29th of 2000, back to the Midtown Inn and Suites in Kingston Springs and picked up his girlfriend, Erica Castro Miles. He, the defendant, and Erica Castro Miles, for the next 24 hours, were driving around Dixon County, went to various locations, but ultimately, in the early morning hours of May the 30th, their vehicle became inoperable, primarily due to a flat tire. You will see the vehicle was parked, and they stayed inside the vehicle at the intersection of Tidwell Switch Road and Sam Vineyard Road in Dixon County. Now, at about 6:20 a.m. on May the 30th of 2018, a citizen resident of Dixon County called in to Dixon County Dispatch to report a suspicious vehicle. Okay? Sergeant Baker, you will see, was just about to come on shift, as he was the shift sergeant, and he responded to that dispatch call. When he arrived at the intersection of Tidwell Switch Road and Sam Vineyard Road in Dixon County, he saw a 1998 Saturn with two occupants, the defendant behind the driver's side, behind the wheel, and Erica Castro Miles on the passenger side. Sergeant Baker performed a standard encounter upon such a request as a suspicious vehicle. He approached the driver's side window and asked the defendant for his name and proof of identification. He also asked the passenger for name and proof of identification. The defendant did not provide his name, his correct name. He provided a wrong name. He also provided a false social security number that you will see in the proof. At that point in time, Sergeant Baker, in a routine traffic encounter like this, called in the license plate number of the vehicle, Boy Robert Young 013. And Sergeant Baker had maneuvered himself from the driver's side window to the rear of the vehicle so that he could see the license plate. As he was waiting on a response, there was kind of some downtime in the car, just a few moments or seconds. And you will notice that the humidity and fog of that spring morning had glazed over the windows. They were hard to see into. At some point, dispatch radioed back to Sergeant Baker, informing him that Boy Robert Young 013 was a vehicle that had been reported stolen, which alerted Sergeant Baker that there could be a problem, or this could be someone who's in possession of a stolen vehicle. At that time, Sergeant Baker approached the driver's side window again, and he ordered the defendant to get out of the car because he wanted to do a further investigation to see what was going on. The defendant said, "I can't get out, this door won't open." The defendant continued to tell Sergeant Baker that the door will not open. The door won't open, that I have to have pliers on the inside of the car to open the door to get out. You will see this on Sergeant Baker's body camera. You will then see that Sergeant Baker said, okay, I'm going to walk around to the other side. As he was walking around the rear of the vehicle, going towards the passenger side, the defendant removed a .45 caliber high-point semi-automatic pistol. As Sergeant Baker approached the passenger side window, which had been rolled down, the defendant leveled off and shot through the passenger side window. Sergeant Baker ran backwards from the car and issued his final words, a warning. Shots fired, officer down. Sergeant Baker collapsed on the ground, still alive. The defendant exits the vehicle out of the driver's side door, which he had previously said was broken. He approaches Sergeant Baker and at close range executes him. This is on video. The defendant immediately takes possession of Sergeant Baker's patrol unit 500. We will refer to it as Unit 500. He moves the car near Sergeant Baker's body. He opens the rear driver's side door, loads Sergeant Baker's body into the vehicle. Now the passenger, Erica Castro-Niles, runs away from the scene. She is not a part of this trial. This trial is State versus Wiggins. He loads Sergeant Baker's body in. He begins driving away from the scene, at which point the defendant, pretending to be law enforcement, answers multiple radio calls from Dixon County Central Dispatch. He's thinking clearly and quickly, and he responds, 10-4, one in custody, en route, Dixon County Central. Other law enforcement officers on that shift overheard some concerning radio traffic. They also heard a voice that they did not recognize to be Sergeant Baker's. So they began calling on the radio and cell phone. As the defendant was driving away with Sergeant Baker's body in the rear of the vehicle, the defendant answered Sergeant Baker's cell phone, a call from Deputy Chris Lashley. And he tells Chris Lashley, pretending to be Sergeant Baker, 10-4, everything's okay. You will then see that the defendant drives to the Bear Creek Valley area of Dixon County, Tennessee. He exits the roadway and he drives through a couple of fields to a remote area that can't be seen from the road. He gets out of the vehicle. He steals Sergeant Baker's backup weapon, which is his personal weapon, a Glock 357, and a knife belonging to Sergeant Baker. He takes Sergeant Baker's duty weapon, a Glock 9mm, pops the hood, puts that weapon, whether intentionally or by accident, we don't know, leaves that weapon under the hood of the vehicle. The defendant then sets fire to Sergeant Baker and also the front seat of the car. He closes the doors, locks the doors, and flees. Ladies and gentlemen, you will see proof that after fleeing the scene, one of the largest manhunts in the state of Tennessee occurred. And for a little over 2 days, the defendant was at large. But he was captured and arrested. And when he was arrested, he was found in possession of the murder weapon, a .45 caliber, semi-automatic high point, which was ballistically, scientifically confirmed to be the murder weapon. He was also found in possession of Sergeant Baker's backup weapon, the Glock 357, and Sergeant Baker's knife. Upon his arrest, he was taken into custody, but first taken to the hospital and checked out, where the doctors found that he was just dehydrated. After he was rehydrated, he voluntarily interviewed and provided a statement to the TBI, which you will hear and see. In that statement, he was asked, why did you walk up and shoot Sergeant Baker in the head at close range? And the defendant said, it's like a dog. You don't let it suffer. Ladies and gentlemen, this crime is on camera. The defendant has confessed. There's scientific testing, fingerprints, DNA, ballistic testings, all to confirm and reconfirm that the defendant committed these crimes. You will also see a video test by the TBI of the Saturn where they demonstrate that the driver's side door is fully operational from the inside and out. The state's proof will show that the defendant was lying when he said the door won't open. The state's proof will show that the defendant set up Sergeant Baker, forced him to go to the passenger side where the defendant could get a tactical advantage and await the moment to shoot him while he was unsuspecting. Not only that, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear from a witness in this case that earlier in the month of May, the defendant said, if I'm stopped by law enforcement, I will smoke their ass. At the conclusion of the state's proof, I'm going to come to you and ask you to find the defendant guilty of every single count, because this case was proven not only beyond a reasonable doubt, but beyond all doubt.